Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a good day and enjoying the many sessions we've had scheduled with your consensus team members. We've got Hannah Carey joining us today. She has done a great job of preparing what I think is the one of the favorite sessions every year, SAP Business One tips and tricks. So good afternoon, Hannah. How are you?
Good afternoon, Greg. I'm doing really well. It's been really enjoyable. I've joined into some of the other sessions, so very excited for this one as well.
Yeah. And Hannah's one of our consultants that she's been doing great, been with us for a few years now, and volunteered to do the tips and tricks this year, which is great. And again, I see a lot of the names of people registered, see a lot of familiarity there. So it's really good. I'm hoping you're going to enjoy this session. It's usually one of the most popular, and I believe that right now it is the most popular session. So please, as we go through the tips and tricks that are here that are associated with things, we want you to make sure that you're utilizing them. So after you go through today's session, if you have any questions about how to get things working or do them, you can either review the session recording again or reach out to any of your consensus teammates to get some assistance to get things working. So we're here to help you and make sure you're utilizing these things. Tips and tricks can save you a lot of time, a lot of aggravation, a lot of repetition and things. So we want to make sure during the session that everybody has the opportunity to ask questions going forward. There's a Q&A button that's associated with that you can cover. Your microphones are going to be muted, but we also encourage you to, on the previous slide, to go back and take the survey. Your input is really important to us. It helps us make things better for you, our business partners, for future sessions. Ideas that you have for topics, things you want to cover, anything we can do a little bit better, please let us know. We pay attention to that very closely. We welcome your input and really appreciate you attending today's session. So we're going to turn off the cameras in a minute and get the session recording going. But again, feel free to use the Q&A button that's on there to ask questions at the end of the recording. We'll go through and answer those questions as best we can. May have to get back to you on a few things, but we'll certainly do our best to satisfy you. So Hannah, again, thank you for preparing this. I know it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to do this. It's much appreciated, and thank you for that. So let's go
Thank
ahead
you,
and
Greg.
start our session, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you.
The SAP Business One client has functionality that we can move queries over to the modules. If you most commonly use the modules to open windows and reports, this will be a really good fit and it may make it quicker and more easy to access. So the first step to do this is to click on the Query Manager, and then let's go find the query in question that we'd like to move over to our modules. For this example, I'll be working with the customers by sales amount. I'm going to quickly double click on this query so that you can see what it is. And then to proceed, you only need to give it a single click to highlight and then click on Assign to Menu. The next step is to select the menu item checkbox. This will make it a menu item over here in the modules. The name of the query pulls into this field. You can change it if you'd like to see something different, but this name is fine and I'll keep it as is. The next step is to specify which folder in the module it will fall under. So click on the blue button. It'll then update with a window with all the modules. Since this query is regarding customers and sales, I could put it under business partners or sales, and I will go with the latter. More specifically, I want to put it under the sales report folder. The last step is to choose where in the sales report folder we would like to see the query. So it is defaulting to 0. Position 0 means that it'll be the very first item found under the sales report folder. Let's go ahead and update. And this change is made in real time. We will go ahead and go to sales reports. And there we go, customers by sales amount. If we would like to change the position of this query, we can do so. Just go back to the query manager, highlight your query again, assign to menu. We are going to place it at the very bottom of the sales report folder. In the case that we don't know the number, you can select this checkbox and it'll automatically tell you what the very last position is. Let's open that again. And by scrolling down, it is now the very last option. To take the tip a step further, we can actually move this query, now that it's available in the modules, over to our common functions. So we will go ahead and click, hold, drag, and drop. So now we have multiple options. We can access the query through the query manager, we can find it over in our modules, or we can access it from our common functions. The SAP form settings is a feature that we like to show users as everyone gets onboarded and familiarized with the system. In addition to some of the basic things, there are two specific areas that I'd like to show today. I would like to show how you can use the form settings to customize the search windows, and in addition, how it can help populate data into certain lines. So let's start with a basic example of the form settings. One that we see quite commonly is when users begin working with inventory documents. They may not have the warehouse column available. So let's go up to form settings, table format, and search for warehouse. And it's spelled this way. Oftentimes people will start typing this out and they can't find it. So another tip is this spelling is used in the system. All right, so this is a basic example of how the form settings can be used to display important fields and make sure we can see everything that we need. Moving on to another example is that you can also use the form settings when you search for something. So if we are searching for a specific item master data record, let's enter an asterisk, click the enter key, and now we're met with our search window. If we would like to see another column here, we just have to press form settings and we can add something to column 8. So I like to add active. So this will show us if the item that you're searching for is currently active or inactive. It will use this as the default display name, or we can change it to something different. So for this to take effect, we will need to cancel out and search again. And now this appears. So using the form settings, we can bring in more information, and this is really helpful so we don't accidentally select an inactive item. And we can select an active one instead. The last example I'd like to show with form settings is how you can specify a different GL account for all line items. So let's say that we are creating an inventory posting document, for example. Let's control and click on a few different items and add these here. You can see as each item is added, SAP will auto-populate the inventory offset accounts based on how the GL account determination is set up. But let's say for whatever reason, we would like to change this to a different one. We can use our form settings, and by going to this document tab, we can paste or enter this and manually select a different GL account to use. And by saying OK, it will go through and update each row with the account that we've specified here. So this is a really helpful way to save yourself some time and utilize the form settings to search for things more easily or change rows in bulk using the form settings. If you're using the approval templates in your SAP deployment, this next tip may be very helpful for you. So, in the case that someone who is defined as an authorizer on the approval template is going to be out of office for a certain period of time, it may be helpful to define a substitute authorizer for them. So that means in their absence, they have someone who has their permission to approve or reject documents in their absence. So let's go ahead and navigate to the approval templates to take a look at an example. In this example, we have Sophie and Jim who are subject to the approval process anytime they add a goods issue document. They are looking for the approval of either Bob or Linda. So if Bob was to be out of office for a week, we can specify someone who can approve in his absence. And using this window will be a lot easier than coming into the approval template, going into the stage, and then trying to change this. We all know that approval templates can be a little tricky once they're active in use and they have documents pending. It can be difficult to update them. So let's close this out and focus on this window. So in this example, we have Bob, who is the current authorizer. We now need to specify who will be his substitute. And now let's specify the dates that Bob will need a substitute. Next, we can specify which approval templates are relevant for the substitute. So for example, in the example above, we have only a specific template is being subjected to the substitute. We could also allow for all templates that Bob is an authorizer for will be routed to Brad. Let's update that. Let's make it active. And we're good to go. So you may have noticed that I did do a future date. So you do not have to set this up the day that someone leaves. You can set it up well in advance and then it will start to take effect during this time period. You may also notice that once I added this, it then auto-populated this information. So there's a sort of change log over here where it'll track who created it and when. So now that we have this set up, any alerts or notifications that would be sent to Bob will now be routed to Brad, and Brad will make that decision. When Bob comes back to the office to get caught up and see the progress that Brad has made, he can come to the approval decision report. He can look at everything that was approved. He can type in Brad's name here. And he can even specify the approval template. So we won't have any information at this time, but this is how he would go ahead and use this report to summarize the information that he missed over the last week. So if we cleared this out, and let's just look for all approved documents, we can see here what it would look like with the document type, the number, who created it, and what Brad's response was. It was approved. For a more holistic review, you could look at both approved and rejected and see everything that Brad both approved or rejected during that time frame. A very useful tool from within SAP is the import from Excel utility. If you ever need to add data in bulk or perform a mass update, you can use this tool. So there's standard ways that you may be familiar with using this tool, but today's tip is that you can use it in some other windows that you may not know about, such as the inventory counting or inventory posting. So when we search for import from Excel, this window appears and it shows the options for data that we can use it for. Most commonly, I see it used for business partners, price lists, and items. However, we do not see the inventory counting or inventory posting here. So if we were to open our inventory counting document and select import items, the import from Excel now becomes available to use. This can be very helpful where if we don't want to select items that belong to a certain group, by using select items, you can select items from a certain warehouse, you can select items that belong to a certain item group. If there are many items that you need to count, but they don't belong to a specific group or an easy way to sort them, you can prep the template external to SAP, and then you can use this import button to import it into the window. In addition, if you would like to track the entire inventory counting with the items and the counted quantities external to SAP and Excel, and then use the import from Excel to import that, that's totally fine too. So we can do that example. So we need to make sure that we have the required information, and then whatever columns we define here, we need to build our Excel template to match. We'll add new records and update. And then now we can go ahead and select the template that I built prior to this tip being recorded. I'm going to open this to show you what I did. In Excel, I went ahead and I entered data for a decent quantity of items, and the data matches the columns that were defined over here, with the first column being item code, item description, etc. After this was built and prepped, I saved it as a text file, and that's what we will import to the import from Excel. So I decided to track the inventory counting in Excel. Now that it's all prepped there, I went ahead and I pasted it in here, and I can add this document. So in summary, today's tip with the import from Excel is we are not just limited to these few functions that are provided here on this window. There's other windows we can use it for, such as the inventory posting or inventory accounting. If you need to perform a mass update of data or adding a large quantity of data, you can use the import from Excel utility. You may have used this before, so today's tip is going to focus on a form that you may not know that you can use it for. So to begin, let's look for the import from Excel utility. By clicking on this, we are now presented with a drop-down of options that you can use it for. So very commonly I see it used for items, price lists, or business partners. We can note that we do not see the inventory counting window here, and this is the window that we want to use. So let's close this out, and let's go find it. All right, so we're on our inventory counting window as if we're going to start doing an inventory count. What you can do is you can list the items that you wish to count. This can be quite time consuming. So the way to speed it up is to use the import from Excel. Down below, we can click on Add Items, Import Items. From here, we can import a list of items that we had already prepared in an Excel spreadsheet and move them over to the SAP window very quickly. The other way we can use this is if we wanted to completely track the entire inventory counting in Excel, and then once the counted quantities are entered in Excel, we can paste the whole thing over here in SAP, and that's the example we're going to do. So on this window, after ensuring that inventory counting is selected, we need to specify the columns that we're going to import, and it's very important that we select these accurately, and then we build our Excel spreadsheet with the same columns. So prior to recording this tip, I already prepped the Excel spreadsheet, so I will show you what this looks like. To select the file to import, click on the blue button, and I have saved it here. So let's take a look together. So I've listed about 24 items with the item code in column 1, item description, warehouse, bin location, and counted quantity. We've confirmed that the data's columns matches the columns that are in the import from Excel utility we defined. Also note that row 1 starts with data, there's no column headers. After this is prepared, save it as a text file, and that's the type of file that we'll import here. Let's ensure that our settings are correct, and we will import. So just like that, I added an inventory counting document that we prepared in Excel. I went ahead and I imported it into SAP. So the key takeaway from today's tip is that we can use it in the inventory counting window, even though it may not be available in the dropdown from the import from Excel window. We can use it by clicking on the Add Items button.
Hello. If you want to start using the web client, there are some prerequisites that you should know. Your SAP Business One must be in version 10. If you are not sure which version your company has, you can go up in your menu, select Help, and then About SAP Business One. Here you can see the version. And if you are not in version 10, you need to upgrade. And you can send us an email and we can plan your upgrade with you. You don't need to buy an additional license. This is just a different way to access SAP Business One. You need your SAP license to connect. The web client components are included in all SAP Business One 10 installations. And if you don't have it, and are using SAP Business One 10, please contact our technical team. The installation time can take around 1 consulting hour. The reverse proxy, this is optional, but necessary for remote access. This is included for Consensus Cloud customers and system hosted with Slack Consulting. And for dedicated environment and on-premise deployment, please contact our technical team for installation. The installation time typically takes around 4 consulting hours. But if you want these, you will need a reverse proxy server, a third-party certificate, a domain name system, a network address translation. But remember, if you're hosted in Consensus Cloud or Slack, all the above prerequisites are included. And you can ask, what is a reverse proxy server, Marisol? So, a proxy server is a system or router that provides a gateway between users and the internet. So it helps prevent cyber attackers from entering your private network. It is a server referred to as an intermediary. So in few words, a reverse proxy intercepts traffic that requests access to resources on your private network. And I want to mention this prior to any setup. Please contact Consensus Technical Support to review specific requirements for your system. Also, I wanted to recommend some web browsers. You just need to click the URL provided with us. And for an optimized user experience, please launch web client in either a desktop computer using one of the following web browsers: Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, or Apple Safari for those who have Mac. And this is a summary of the technical prerequisites. You are running in SAP Business One version 10. You are a licensed SAP Business One user, web client installed and running. And if you want to access from outside of your local network, you will need a reverse proxy server, purchase a third-party SSL certificate, and if you're hosted in Consensus Cloud or Slack, you don't need that. A domain name system and a network address translation.
Changing the font size is a common setup task with SAP Business One. Oftentimes, when working in the web client, I see users go to their profile and settings and search for a setting where they can change the font size. However, since the web client is browser-based, this setting resides in the browser you are using. So in my case today, I am working with Google Chrome. And to change the size of my screen, I will click on these 3 dots. And with this zoom option, I will click the plus icon to resize things. So now the font is bigger, and in turn, the tiles on the screen are also larger. Instead of having to change the font size every single time that you log into the web client, some browsers have a feature where it can save the default zoom percentage every time you log into the same web address. So to do that, I will go ahead and click on the 3 dots again. Settings, privacy and security, site settings, additional content settings, zoom levels. So before I recorded this tip, I set a default percent of 125% for the web client. I am going to remove this and show you how I did that. So by going back to the web client, if I were to resize this, it does not update the zoom levels here. To do that, you have to use the keyboard shortcuts. So by clicking Control plus icon or Control minus button, I can resize my screen. And by doing it with this keyboard shortcut, my browser will automatically pick up the default Zoom percent. So after I sign out for the day and log back in, it should automatically pick up this 150% and default to this sizing. This may differ a little bit depending on the browser that you're using. So our support team has a document they've created with more information on Firefox, Safari. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. The only thing that I want to note when changing this is, since this is a change in your browser, other websites will reflect this change as well. So because I increased the web client to 150%, in turn, the other website I was on, our consensus website, also increased to 150%. As I use Control -sign to decrease this, the consensus website also decreases. The web client has a feature where the serial and batch column on marketing or inventory documents becomes editable only when the items are serial or batch managed. For example, we're going to take a look at an inventory document, a goods receipt, and as the inventory moves into the system, if we were to select an item that's not managed by serial or batch numbers, this specific field will not be editable. It will remain grayed out. If we do select serial or batch managed items, that field will be available to utilize. So to get started, let's go to the inventory transaction section and click on the tile to create a goods receipt. After filling out the header information, we can scroll or click on the contents where the line items are entered. For this tip, we need to ensure that the serial and batch column is visible. So if you don't see this on your screen, navigate to the form settings by clicking on this gear icon. You can scroll or you can search for it and ensure that this field is checked. It's now checked and visible. However, we have to scroll for it. So let's go back to our form settings and make one more change before we can get started. We find the field here, and now we can use our arrows above and place it in a better spot for visibility. So now we can see it without using our scroll bar. Perfect. So I'm going to start with an example where I am entering an item that is not batch or serial managed. And as expected, this field remains grayed out. So let's go ahead and add our goods receipt. Let's go back to the home and click on goods receipts to see a history of the ones that were added. I created an example prior to recording this tip where I had one item not managed by either, one batch managed, and one serial managed. If I was to duplicate this goods receipt, you can see that when we key in the item here, this field becomes editable. You do not have to click into the secondary window to assign the serial number. So that's the tip. Basically, from here, you can assign the serial number to the item without going into another window. Same here for the batch managed items. You can go ahead and enter in the batch and add it here. So this was done successfully. We have a new document. I'm going to do one last example where we add a new goods receipt for this item here. When we type in the item code, again, it allows us to assign a batch number, which we can do, or if we would like to assign additional information regarding the batch details, we can click on this icon, come into here, and enter additional information. However, this is not mandatory. And we could do it from the main screen and just assign the batch number. Let's go back to our goods receipts and we can see the documents we just added. In the SAP web client, there is a centralized place for all settings and configurations. This can be found by opening up the modules, administration, configuration. If we navigate back to the home page, this can also be found by going to the administration tab and clicking on the configuration tile. Once here, all the settings and configurations are broken up into several different folders. So within each folder are all the settings relevant. So if we open up sales and purchasing, we can take a look at the settings. When it comes to sales specifically, we have some options as to how to define the commission. And with purchasing, we have the option to use the warehouse address defined in the system for purchasing documents. Moving on to the business partners folder, we can take a look now, not at settings, but at a setup table. When we open the vendor groups, we can see here is a list of vendor groups that were defined by us in the system. So when you go to add a new BP master data record for a vendor, these are the options that will be provided in the drop-down list. To edit that, we can go into edit mode. We can add a new group and save. If we want to make changes and remove existing groups, we can do that as well. Going back into edit mode, selecting, and delete. So let's go back to the home page, navigate to business partners, and create business partner. The first thing I want to do is change this to a customer. And once it's changed to a customer, this group will now reflect everything that we saw there in the vendor group list. There's also the define new option here, which will ultimately take us back to that setup table. So the tip in this section is that instead of finding these setup tables and settings throughout the system, come to the administration section and everything will be available in one centralized location. A helpful feature of the SAP Web Client is the SAP Companion. To access this tool, click on the help icon. This tool is an additional context menu, so depending on what you are clicking on or where you are in the web client, the content that is in this menu will change and will be relevant to the form or tile that you are viewing. It is a way to give you more resources and more help. So basically, right now we are on the home page. So by clicking on this, it is giving us more information regarding the main menu, how to search. When you hover over these options, it will highlight where they are so that there's no confusion as to what it is referring to. And if you click on it, more information will appear. If we navigate to business partners, you can see in real time our SAP companion will update with additional information. So it'll explain what these fields mean on this list view of customers. We were just on the business partners. If we go over to create business partners, you can see how, again, the SAP companion changes, and it explains what some fields mean, such as the account balance. In addition to explaining what specific fields mean in the SAP web client, it also can provide additional help resources. So by clicking on this, it will take us external to the web client onto the SAP Help portal with additional information on business partners. From here, you can click on additional links and explore this page. So we've taken a look at master data, creating master data. So let's go look at an AR invoice and show some examples of how the SAP companion is helpful there. So again, this will take us to the SAP Help portal to a page specific to AR invoices. This will cover and explain key fields. And at the end of the SAP companion, there will be links to videos, again, external to the SAP web client. At any time, we can click on the help icon again and remove this. So you can navigate throughout SAP. When you do have a question, you can open this, or you can leave it open at all times and watch as the information changes as you navigate through the web client. The SAP web client has a great tool for handling draft documents. Every so often, we must go through the system and clean up the drafts, whether that be through closing or canceling them. To do so, we can find the tile called Sales and Purchasing Drafts. Because this is something we may not access too often, we can search up above and find it, or on our home page, we can go find the tile. Once in this list view, we have an overview of the drafts in the system. The first thing I want to do is remove the user signature filter. I don't want to only see the ones that I've created. I want to see the ones that everyone has created. We'll click on Go and refresh the list. So now we see all drafts in the system with open status. If we want to filter a little bit further, we can select a specific document type. I want to clean up the purchase orders in this example, so let's update the list. Lastly, we need to select the documents we wish to change. So let's go ahead and we can select this checkbox in the column header to automatically select all documents, or we can go through and manually select a couple. We then choose what we wish to do with these documents. In this case, I am going to close them. This action was successful, closing both draft 53 and 52. After saying OK, we can now see this list is updated. And if we would like to see the two drafts that we just closed, we can actually change the draft status from open to closed and confirm that those two were closed successfully.
Oh, Hannah, thank you very much. That was great. You covered a lot of topics.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you. We even went through one process twice, and I'm sure that some of our customers appreciated that little error that we had in the editing of the video, just because sometimes some of the feedback that we're getting from the customer day is, oh, the presenter is going too fast and we can't take notes. So this was not, obviously, we apologize for that. It was actually, it was not intended, but there was miscommunication here, and we couldn't reach the person that was sharing the video. But I think probably you were able to now understand better how that tip could work for you. So other than apologizing, I want to really thank Hannah, because I think she chose like the tips and tricks are things that you guys can use immediately. And I think all the tips that Hannah shared are like that. Are things that are not complicated, and things that you might not know about your own system, and that might make your job easier. We have a lot of questions, Hannah, so take a deep breath and let's get started. Thank you to everybody that is here participating. I just want to make a comment about the web client, because I know if you're here, you're engaged, and you're probably participating in all the sessions, and you've heard us already in not only in this customer day, but in customer day of since, already like for 3 years, we've been talking about the web client. But if it's the first time that you're here, and it might be the case, it might be a little confusing. So I always want to explain what the web client is and what is not. It's not a different product. You saw that the look and feel is different. You see the tiles. So from now on, you're going to see more and more content showing the web client, and it's just a different way of consuming your data. You don't need an additional license. It's not another product. It's just a different way of accessing your data. We included the technical prerequisites, which only apply to those of you who have your own installations on premise or on a dedicated tenant. But if you are on the multi-tenant environment, either with Consensus Cloud or with SLAS, all of the technical prerequisites are already included. The only thing you need to do is let us know, and we'll share with you a URL, and then you can start, working with the web client immediately. So I just wanted to make that comment first. Are you ready for the questions, Hannah? Yes? Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. So the first question is in reference to the tip when you showed how to add a specific query to your menu, like in your modules. And this user is asking, does adding the query to the main menu only appear for that user, or will it be on the main menu for all users?
So,
Hannah,
Hannah,
you are on mute.
you have to unmute your phone, please.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you very much.
there you go.
So that's a great question. It is not user specific. So what you do will take effect for others, so
Okay.
long as others have access to the query that you're making visible, they are able to see it.
Okay, fantastic. That's a good question. A good answer and question. How can I pull up common functions to my main screen in SAP Business One?
Yes, so the common functions, we didn't go over how to pull that up today. I already had it up for the presentation, so that's a really good question. So basically, if you were to go into the KPIs and widgets in the SAP homepage, usually there's a plus icon that's available. There will be a large variety of options, but down in the last section, there will be one called common functions that you can enable.
Okay, Hannah, let me ask you this. Is the common functions a HANA functionality? Or is it available for SQL as well? Do you know?
I will have to confirm. I've only worked with it in HANA.
Okay, because that is a possibility too. So you have the web client and the desktop client, which I just explained, but also SAP Business One can run in 2 different platforms. So one of them is HANA, and most of our customers are running on HANA, and then you get the KPIs and the dashboards on there. But some customers are also running on an SQL database, and I think, Waleska, it is the case of your company. So maybe that's why you don't see the common functions, but we'll confirm and let you know. Okay. And Carlos, to your question, yes, all meetings, all sessions in the customer day are being recorded, and they are available for all of you immediately. If you registered, you'll receive an email with a link to the recording, but also you can go back to the event page at any point in time, and you can even share that with your colleagues. If you think, one of my colleagues missed this session and they would have enjoyed it, or it would be valuable for them, you can send the event this page to them, and the little button that you use to register now serves as a link to watch it on demand. Okay, so every session is being recorded, and you can then watch it on your own time. Okay,
Right.
so
Now, in addition to that,
yeah.
you can go up to the Consensus website itself, and under the resources drop down, there is a separate section under resources for Customer Day, and all of the recordings for not only just this year's Customer Day, but all the previous ones all the way back to 2020, might be a little earlier, but those are all there and saved with the recording links as well.
Yes, absolutely. Very good point, actually. Hannah, another question regarding the SAP Companion. Is there something like the SAP Companion panel in the SAP Business One client?
So that's also a really good question. It is different. So we don't have the same companion in the web client that we do in the B1 client. The web client is more of like in-app help, and it will open it right there for you. It is a little smarter, whereas you're hovering over something, it can give you more options based off of what you're hovering over. But in the B1 client, we still do have some help in your toolbar. There's the icon that looks like a question mark. If you click on that, that can also provide help based on the form or window that you have open in SAP.
Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. Regarding one of the tips that you shared also for the web client and changing the font size, a user is asking, how can I change font size if I don't use Google Chrome like you showed in the video?
Yes. So we only got to see Chrome today. That's just what I personally use. You can still use the web client on other browsers. And if you do, the steps might be just a little bit different. So I know the customer experience team has a document that I've referenced before where it has a link to some other browsers such as Safari or Edge. And it has those same steps, just slightly tweaked for that browser.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you need them, just send us an email and we'll be happy to direct you to that contact. Another question regarding the query. Will the query still work in the module if it is later updated in the query manager?
Yes, for sure. So any changes that are made in the query manager, that's where the query will live. So then if it's pulled over to the module, it'll ultimately point back to there. So yes, any changes will be reflected in the module.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. Regarding the form settings, can the changes be undone? If you
Yeah.
add a column, how can you maybe take it out? That I'm guessing that's what they meant.
Yeah, and some of these are a little trickier to answer without sharing my screen. So if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out. But if you want to undo the changes from form settings, you can go right back to where you were, and usually you can just deselect that checkbox to undo it
Okay.
manually, or there is usually an option, a button to restore the defaults, which it'll also do the change you just did, but it'll undo all form settings customization. So be careful of that one.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. Regarding the substitute authorizer, which I thought was great, can I set this up in advance for an employee's upcoming vacation?
Yes, definitely. And I've seen it most commonly set up in advance. So you don't have to worry about it. So you're not scrambling when someone's out of office. That's what the from and to date range is really useful for.
Okay, fantastic. And then finally, for the import from Excel, does this tool ever fail an error? Will it tell me?
Yes. So hopefully it doesn't fail.
Mm-hmm.
But if it does, very similar to DTW, our other import tool, it'll give you an error message explaining why it failed, and you can still continue on. It'll still pull in other items. It will just skip the one that failed.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. I think those were all the questions we had. Let me check on these other. Yeah, I think that was all. Hannah, thank you so much for this content. It was great. I hope you all enjoyed it. And please rate this session. Rate this session and the work that Hannah did. Of course, there was this mishap with sharing the same content twice, but
It was a
I
very
think
important topic.
yeah.
Just a little
Thank you
extra
for being
practice.
here. Exactly. Two different ways of doing it. Slightly
Thanks
different.
everybody for attending. We appreciate your attention. Please complete the survey as Clara had mentioned. We really look at the input that you have on there, and that'll help us guiding future sessions for you. So thanks
Yes.
everybody for your time. We appreciate it. Be safe and have a great rest of your day.
Hannah, I have another question for you that just came in.
One more
Is
question.
that okay? Yeah.
Of course.
When you substitute an authorizer, do they have to have the same type of license user?
That's an excellent question. So it would make most sense that they do have the same license type, but the most important thing would to look at the license comparison chart and ensure that they have access to the same documents.
Yes.
So not for sure the same license type, but we'd have to take a look at that on a case by case basis.
Yes.
And at least they
Absolutely.
have the permissions to do that transaction.
Yeah.
So you could have a limited use, but you could substitute somebody that's got a professional user license and they'd still be able to complete that task.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
plus,
like Hannah was mentioning, you need access to the same documents, otherwise you won't be able to.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Very good questions. Any other questions, send them our way. You know that we're always open, and we'll see you in the last two sessions of the Customer Day. To those of you who have registered to the last session of the Customer Day presenting My Consensus Portal, I'm very excited for that session, and I think you're going to love it, and you're going to receive an email in the next minutes. You will need that email to access that content, so please take a look. You can get to your oh my God, to your other folder or your spam folder. It
Yeah.
will probably get there. So we already sent an email advising about that, but please take a look at your inbox, okay? Thank you very much and see you soon. Thank you, Hannah and Greg.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Good job.
Bye.
Bye.